So this is my second breakfast of the day, courtesy of Farmer Boys in Fullerton. They have all-day breakfast. And I happen to like what you're seeing and what you're about to see. Yes, there is bacon. So I mention this because this is about my tenuous belief in Rabbinic Judaism. The Torah is the one prescribing no bacon. We don't know why. And this is a bothersome aspect of studying God, who created man with a brain to reason. And these are examples, or this is an example of a chok, a law that doesn't have reason behind it. It's just, this is what the Lord prescribes. I don't like this because I think the creation of man that Lord has done would have been with reason behind it. So it gives me less credence than when I say I'd like to do a man versus man law that the Lord prescribes, because there's reason behind it. There's a goodness to a living, breathing being across the street, my neighbor, as opposed to a nice smell to the Lord, as they say, or obeying this unreasoned command. Now, there are some things that have been reasoned by mankind that I truly have to step away from. And these are the rabbinic decrees. If they lead up to the 1600s. But in the medieval times, we tend to get these extra laws about kashrut. We're pretty certain these were not in place back in Moses' day. Seething a calf in its mother's milk is the reason for, by some rabbis' understanding, separate plates for meat and milk. No cheeseburgers. Not even having a diet that has an element of meat within 6 hours. Now, some places they say just 1 hour, then you can have your milk. All of this from what I think is a misinterpreted phrase. Do not seethe a calf in its mother's milk was because that was the pagan ritual. And what is clear in the Old Testament is how the Lord does not want these pagan practices to continue. This was a prominent one. So there's no Jew today looking to go back to pagan rituals. There are many of us who would like to have a cheeseburger, but that's off limits according to Rabbinic Judaism that, again, I think is a misinterpretation. And we're stuck with it. Or the ability for us to change 1,000 years later. Any of these things is, well, it depends on who you ask, what authorities say are needed to change. But at minimum, we're stuck with minhags. And at most, we're stuck with things that because these were the gezerim, the decrees from before, and we no longer have the authority to undo them, we have to live in medieval times where they think that Christians are poisoning the wine that Jews might drink, for example. So we have to stay away from Christian-run wineries. We're over this. And to be stuck with it is a denigration of my religion. And I think we can be better than it, and that's why I feel like Reform Judaism is actually potentially more thoughtful. Now, it gets mixed in with lazy Judaism, and there's an element to that too that has appeal, doing less rather than more. But the reform of saying this is thoughtful to stay in keeping with Torah and still not have to be stuck with the rabbis of 1095 when we are 1,000 years advanced. I'm Mark Stewart Greenstein. Thanks for joining me. I'm about to have my second breakfast. At least most of it. I leave part of the bacon out. And thanks for joining me here.